Hello, fellow hobby enthusiasts. Welcome to another episode of Hobby Hotline. This week, I will be your host, John, the 3D 80s kid. And I've got a great panel here next to me. Start out, I've got Alex, Army, ATC 22. Welcome to Hobby Hotline.
How's it going, everybody?
And with me, forever in the hobby, Mr. Uncle Rich Klein. He goes by. So.
Mr. Uncle Rich Klein. Now that sounds interesting, but
Okay,
I do want to lead off. A local store owner, Al Gillian, passed away earlier this week. He had owned Triple Cards in Plano for more than 20 years. I think it was about 25 years. And he actually sold it in 2017 to Lawrence Daggett. And Lawrence took over Triple Cards, and Triple Cards has now become Triple Cards /Waxed / Collectibles Card Club. And one of the reasons Al is so beloved is that Al survived during the down period of the hobby. When I started the Adat Havarim Synagogue show in 2014, there may have been 5 or 6 card stores in DFW. And he was one of them. He was an important part. And he was always very honest when I wrote box reviews for Sports Collectors Daily. He was very good at giving me all the detailed information about how the boxes were selling and what price point and all that relevant information that really helped the box reviews. And Al had a very good reputation for being honesty. You didn't get resealed boxes or anything bad out of his store. He was very good. And as I said, he helped the hobby through the doldrums. And that's something that a lot of people don't, we see the hobby today. He saw the hobby. Like John says, I've been around forever. Well, I saw the hobby when there were 5 stores in DFW. Now there are 5 stores that I can drive to within 20 minutes of my house. But Al, we miss you. We hope that your next life is as good as this one. And we'll dedicate today's show to you.
Thanks for that, Rich. We have a good show of topics. As you can see on the left there, today's rundown, we're going to be talking about the most recent Bowman Chrome baseball release. We are going to chat about the AL MVP race and how that ties into the Topps buyback program, as well as our last topic, which is a little bit of a hot button issue around some folks in the community, collecting versus gambling. But before we get to those topics, I just do want to say that this is meant to be an interactive show for you out there. And if you want to call in and chime in on one of these topics, at least, be patient. If you want to chat on a third one, please wait till we get there. But, I put the link right as the first comment in the chat today. As we go along, I'll probably remember to try to paste it a couple more times in there, but feel free to join in the conversation. Speaking of the chat, we've got welcome Mad City Brew, Foul Ball, Larry Gitlin, Jeff Eklund, Philly Joe, Pastor Craig, Peter B, Abel in Vegas, Jeremy, Warren D and CLE, Mookie Chilson, Ruben Snyder, Doc Van Hoot, Pastor Craig, Clean Cheap Shots, and Andrew Deutsch. Welcome to Hobby Hotline. Keeping up with the chat, I will try to pull comments occasionally from there as well. So feel free to chime in on these topics, and I'll try to bring your voice into the chat as well if you're not willing to be on screen. So kick things off. Let's talk Bowman Chrome 2025 baseball release. I have a screen to share on that front, which should be right here. All right. So here is our new product just released on Tuesday. And what are your thoughts on this one, guys?
Andy, you're probably more attuned to this than I am, so lead off.
So I will have to say, Bowman Chrome, you got to think, everyone, it's always a fun product. Like they throw in some extra things, they've thrown in like Garbage Pail Kids and those other case hits and stuff like that. But
I did see that picture down here with
yeah, right. And the thing is like you don't get the top draft picks in this product. Like they save them for for draft, right? Everyone waits till December time frame for a draft to come out, but it's still a fun product. I think Topps helps by adding all the sprinkling in those extra stuff, as you saw, a little bit. If you scroll up a little bit, you see the Bowman first of right there of Shoeless Joe Jackson, his first ever Bowman first card.
Yeah, let me talk to the chat there. There's a lot of vintage collectors in this chat. What do you guys think about that Joe Jackson card as we continue on? Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think they're just adding that extra little bit of searching for other things, since the checklist is, this year's Bowman Chrome checklist is a little bit stronger, but again, these are all players that they haven't shown anything yet, right? This is the prospecting game that people play and everything, but it's a fun little product. It's getting more expensive than previous years, but it's a fun product to rip.
So what you're saying is 99% of these cards will be common in 5 years?
It seems like it. How many years? I don't know. I don't have that data and everything. How many years has Bowman Chrome product, held value or gained value? Having those players in there that are doing a little bit much. So like this year, they've added even a little bit more extra value with the rookie red redemption program, right? So the actual looks like the rookie of the year it's going to be for American League is going to be Nick Kurtz, and his rookie red redemption, his rookie red rookie symbol is in Bowman Chrome. It wasn't in Bowman regular where there was a couple other the rookies were in there, but his actual first rookie with the red symbols in this, and there's a buyback program for that, so that adds a little bit extra value.
Well, there we go. Abel in Vegas is saying he believes the Joe Jackson Super was pulled. His auto is the one left to get pulled, right?
Get that auto pen. I mean, hey, that Super Mickey Mouse auto's out there, so they signed at the same time, right?
Yeah.
What I want to say about Bowman Chrome is several LCSs in the area had like a release party for it, which I think is a great idea. I think the more, and this is part of the collecting versus gambling and opening, but I think for a lot of stores, especially in today's world, their businesses are based on people opening products or buying boxes and packs and all that. And so if you can make it an event to open a new product, which usually has a lot of popularity, it's a good thing for the hobby. I'd almost think that, Topps should at some point, like they do for Topps One, pick a few products a year and have, instead of Hobby Rip Night, Bowman Chrome Rip Night, where you can open the product, or Topps Rip Night, or Topps Museum Collection Rip Night, or, anything like that, where you go in and there's special things done for the opening day or opening night of a product. And that is really good marketing. And that's something, and we were talking in the green room before the show, and Andy does social media. And I do like social media, not as much as he does, obviously. And the more public about the hobby, the more you can draw in new people. And the more new people you draw in, the better it is for the long-term success. But the one key is you also have to make sure that there's price points that work for everybody. One thing to remember is if you do this for a $1,500 box, you're kind of limiting who can afford to do it. But if you do it for Topps One or even Bowman Chrome, and you let there be something, if they pull something from a pack, packs are reasonably affordable, or a couple packs are reasonably affordable. And so you can make price points work for everybody. And that's something to remember. And I'm going to switch topics for a second. Victor brought up something interesting in the chat. PSA made an announcement this week about raising prices and doing things. If we have time, we may be able to touch on that. Also, eBay has also changed some of their holding funds for people who sell items on the thing, and they're extending the amount of time they're holding funds now until an item is like guaranteed delivered. So there's a couple of other things going on in the hobby in addition to our list that have broken in the last couple of days. But as I said, I like the concept of the trade. I don't want to call it a trade night, but it almost can become a trade night. You open the boxes, you trade among yourselves, or you do things. And so I think that's a lot of fun.
Rich, I kind of agree with you on the whole marketing aspect and everything, and finding opportunities. Like what's happening in baseball right now, it's the final push for the playoffs. How great would it be if Topps is outside of these races, at Yankee Stadium, freaking Boston, all these places that are having these tight races, showing off these Bowman Chromes, having people open these packs and everything, right there, and getting involved with the card opening while they're sitting there watching these baseball games. I think with the relationship that they have with MLB, I think they're missing something right there.
Right, and it's not just a relationship with MLB; it's a relationship with MLBPA too.
Yeah,
they have a relationship with everybody,
mm-hmm.
So that gives them a natural advantage in the marketplace, the fact that they have such a natural relationship. They also do all the clothing. Fanatics is I don't want to say it's $1 trillion company. It could very well, if sports continue growing, it could end up $1 trillion company someday, but it's definitely a multi-billion-dollar company.
Well, what about this comment here from Chris Harris? Leave it to the Topps product development team to take a good idea, the shoeless Joe Jackson first Bowman, and batch it up by short printing the bejesus out of it. Making something that, could generate some excitement and then making it super hard to get.
I mean, that makes it a chase card, right? That turns it into, do you want it to be a base card where everyone gets, or do you want it to be the rarity to be out there, right? We have this big stigma of, hey, we're printing to the moon right now with everything. Why not make something special like this card be rare to hit?
I guess that topic almost ties in with our third topic.
Correct.
It does. I mean, and so this becomes a natural thing. We could do our third topic now too. I mean, it's part of the whole thing. But this is one where Chris is right and Andy's right. Everybody's right. Chris is a 80s, 90s collector. We had some chase cards, but it wasn't really like that. Many years ago, I was on I think it was the Freedom Cardboard message board, and there was a nice young man out of France who did a birthday, who would do a birthday, and you sign up and you'd send stuff for people's birthdays. And I enjoyed doing that. And one year they got together, and my birthday gift was an 82 Donruss baseball box. And my wife likes to open packs, and she's opening the box. She goes, "Where's the hits?" Well, that box happened to have 5. None were better than 70-30 centering. 5 Cal Ripken Jr. rookies. I said, "Honey, that's the hit. The Cal Ripken Jr. is the hit." But she knows enough to look for autograph cards or relic cards or combos or something strange. She knows enough about the hobby to know that. And what Andy's saying is that a chase card today is much different than a chase card in the 1980s. In the 1980s, one of the things was your price point, your barrier to entry was much smaller. 85 Topps boxes were $20, actually $18, but let's just make it $20. And you're looking for a $10 good and rookie out of the box. That's a pretty good ROI. You're not guaranteed it, but you should get one, or you could get one. That was the chase card. But your money was so different. Today, your chase cards are much more expensive if you hit it, and your boxes are more expensive, and your packs are more expensive. Again, it's not right. It's not wrong. It's just how the hobby has evolved.
Yeah, I mean, I actually proposed that third topic early this week because I recognize the fact that Rich has been through this forever and seen all the different iterations and the evolution. Alex, from my little bit of research through his social media, was early right into what I would my perception of the gambling side of things from the get-go, at least from his start on social media.
Yeah, 2007-ish, I started doing breaking on YouTube.
Yeah.
When it wasn't cool to do it, right? I did it as a collector getting into a hobby box, split the cost exactly even across all spots and not try to make a profit. We were all part of a community that just wanted to open up a more expensive product.
Sure. And myself, I'm a guy who quit, late in high school in 1991. And so the last time I opened box with buddies, this card was the hit we were going for. So, completely different scale of what we see now. So,
okay. I want to point out something about Orlando's most recent post. We technically did have breakers back then, but the breakers would break it into team sets and player lots and such not. They weren't breaking they were breaking like just to have cards available for sale. Like, I mean, in a lot of the products, around the turn of the century, you get one Kansas City Royals card. I mean, you could spend $100 for the year and basically get the entire Kansas City Royals world for $100 for a year, because they had Carlos Beltran for a few years before they traded him away, Johnny Damon, but they didn't have a lot of people that would stay or really generated any hobby interest. So if you're a Royals fan, you had a good old time. You could really go back because you weren't getting anything in today's world. So we always had breakers, Gary Walter and Neil Hoppenworth. They'd make sets, or they'd do player lots, or they'd do team lots. But it's a different type of breaking today. It's a very different type of breaking today.
Correct.
And again, it's not right. It's not wrong. But I remember 8-9 years ago when I was reading the PSA message boards, there would be people who knew how to game the system and think, okay, which teams do I think I have the best chance of making a profit on by buying into them at a break? And the breakers caught on eventually and said, we need to goose up the prices of the ones that people are going to sell for more money. It's it's capitalism, and it's not for or against. It is what it is.
Before we get full blown into that, let's touch on the second topic. Which back in 2022, there's even a Forbes article I found that Topps started this buyback program of the MVPs from Topps Chrome being able to be submitted for redemption of value to then get more Topps product, and turned what, is this a thing where now this product alone is a case where people open it and they don't just throw away all the base cards now? Is that
It is. It's that's the main premise of this program. In the very beginning, of course, once it dwindles down to the teams that have the players that are more favored to win, they'll hold more of that. But it is to start bringing in, I've talked to Topps a few times about it, directly, and they want more people to hold on to the base cards rather than just throw them in the trash or giving them to the local hospital or doing whatever with them, right? They want them to sit there and maybe gain a little bit of value. The race right now that they have and everything else is a prime example of one, how this is a great system, but also it has flaws in it. If you got, I'll just touch on it. If Cal Raleigh wins MVP, he does not have a base card in 2025 Chrome. Now, highly expect him to possibly have a card and update. Maybe they'll use that. I think Topps has actually announced that would happen. But I think the betting favorite has shifted to Kyle real quick and might have already gone back to Judge, but it's so close and everything.
The latest I've seen has Cal at the leaderboard.
Yeah, it's just the arguments there for both sides, and you're just looking at the stats alone that's on the screen. It's hard. I mean, everyone we can start talking about MVP fatigue. We're seeing it in all the other sports, right? And everything else, and is it going to happen in baseball? Ohtani, there's no question in the NL that he's getting MVP multiple years in a row. That's why on top of it, they've added the multiplier with him. Like if you find an Ohtani MVP buyback in this year's product, because they inserted him in this year's, and then redeem him, it's for more credit. So, and the credit, the thing is, like you said, for more Topps products, it doesn't have to be. These are for LCSs. This is for these LCSs that actually they're Topps, shops, to help them generate more business, right? That's a buyback for people to turn in a base card for $20, a refractor for $40, and so on to buy stuff in the shop. It doesn't have to be for another box. It can be for some cards on the wall, some ones in the case, some supplies, some everything else. It's just to give money back to that shop. And I really like how Topps is doing that.
And let's remember,
chat out there, who do you think should be MVP? So
I think it's just by looking at the WAR, looking at everything else. I think it should be Judge. Period. He leads in almost all the stats except for like one, right?
Home runs.
Yeah, except for home runs and everything. And I also have like 5 Judge cards here from Chrome that I found in dollar boxes and stuff that people just missed and everything. So
because honestly, I look at the stat line and I see Cal Raleigh looks like a modern version of Dave Kingman. Honestly, where he strikes out a lot, he hits a lot of home runs, but the ball's a little more livelier and the parks are a little bit smaller.
Is Cal Raleigh being is he being intentionally walked compared to Aaron Judge? No, not at all.
Okay, a couple things. I know Sean Foreman, the head of Baseball Reference, Football Reference, Basketball Reference, posted in a thread that Raleigh's true WAR is actually closer to Judge than it. Like B WAR makes it closer because there's something not done with defensive framing skills. I mean, this is such a different world, but in WAR that is done in B WAR, that really brings Raleigh closer to Judge. There's a couple of things. Was Seattle expected? And I'm just going to make the argument for the big dumper here, one of the great nicknames of baseball. Was Seattle expected to be really this competitive this year? Maybe. The Yankees, for sure. Who's more unexpected, Raleigh or Judge? Again, that should not make a difference, but sometimes to voters that makes a difference when somebody comes out of nowhere.
Well, that's the whole voter fatigue, and they always like the shiny new object.
Exactly.
You see that in NBA voting as well.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things like that going on. It's a borderline thing, but I think it's fascinating because this will be the first time that we're even close to having discussion that the MVP may not be in the Topps Chrome product. And that's the interesting dilemma, because the voters aren't supposed to know that. No. All the voters are voting is who do they think is the most valuable player for their team.
Mike Petty brought up a good point that I wanted to touch on too. It says Cal showing why you don't need the rest of the catchers. I think I don't know if I saw the right number or whatever. How many times did he actually catch compared to be DH?
I could look it up. I mean, Baseball Reference will have it. So if you give me a second, you can look it up.
I think it's a lot less than people think.
I think I can just click his name here and then check out the fielding stats. We've got 2025. We've got 121 games at catcher and 36 at DH.
Okay, so
that's about right for a top starting catcher.
Okay,
because he gets the DH. It's still a very tiring position.
100%. You if there's one besides because the pitcher's pitching every time and putting more force, but name another position that does more work.
Yeah.
Right.
It does more work than the pitcher. You have to throw you have to throw as many. You have to throw pitches.
It's true.
There's more working. Plus, you're squatting.
Yeah, that's the part that's just mime. I'm tall. I'm 6'3", and trust me, anytime I get down, it takes 3 days.
I wasn't that good defensively, so I played catcher in these very low level softball leagues. Let me tell you, that was no fun back in the day. But it's a great conversation, and the odds are pretty good. Shohei's going to win the NL MVP, and so that he'll have a card. And But Andy did bring up a really good point. When, in fact, I don't know if Rex is in the chat or not, but Rex, who always used to watch our program, I remember the first year he had like 20 people bring in the Chrome cards the first day it was available, and giving out store credit. And it was wonderful. They got recompensed for it. So the stores were getting their money back, which is good. They're getting their money back. And, people come in and, as you said, they're holding cards and they're winning. Everybody wins in this. If you buy a Judge in a $1 box, or if you bought an Ohtani in a $1 box or a $3 box for Ohtani, if you buy them in those boxes and you're going to get $20 of store credit and you have 5 or 6, that gets you $120. That gets you either nicely towards a box, or that gets you cards on the wall or cards in the showcase or whatever. And again, remember, this all began because Topps screwed up something, Topps Chrome, a couple years ago. I forgot what it was, but it was something where some super short prints weren't printed, and it was like, let's do this instead. So one of the tricks for any company is, how do you deal with a mistake? Well, Topps figured out with that mistake how to make it a win for all concerned. And now if we could only get that for everything in life, I think we'd all have a much happier existence.
So did you give your prediction on who the MVP is? I know I said mine.
I honestly, I would like to see I'm a Yankees fan, but I'd like to see Mr. Raleigh win it. He is such a good story this year.
He is. And Mad City even said if Cal wins MVP, he'll have more pressure in 2026 to equal those stats. I think he still has that pressure next year to equal those stats, to show that it wasn't just a fluke. Honestly.
Well, anytime you draw that much of attention with a 60-homer season, you're going to be on the radar of everybody from that point.
Well, so then it's also going to go into, the playoffs. Like, does he continue this season into the playoffs? I understand that, MVP voting doesn't deal with the playoffs, but is this caliber type of year translate into the postseason? So we'll see.
Well, and one thing that at least they don't announce, unlike the NBA, which announces the MVP like during the finals or during the playoffs, Major League Baseball, at least because it's a longer off season, waits till the season is over. And that actually goes back to the 1920s, when a man named Roger Peckinpah was awarded the American League Most Valuable Player in 1925. And the Washington Senators played the Pittsburgh Pirates in the World Series. And it was a really fluky World Series. But on top of it, Peckinpah, because of all the pressure, made 8 errors in that World Series because he actually felt all that pressure. So after that point, they made sure never to announce the MVP till after all the postseason games were played. Well, actually, in the 1930s.
You say longer postseason? You say longer offseason? I think baseball is the shortest, doesn't it?
Baseball's off season is November, December, January, February, basically. I mean, it depends if you count spring training. If you don't count spring training, it's 3 months.
That's spring training counts.
If you don't count spring training, it's really 3 months. Yeah. Basketball, if you think about it, is July, August, September. It's the same 3 months. Hockey is the same.
They're relatively all the same.
They're relatively all the same. As a matter of fact, the longest off season, except they do OTAs and stuff like that, the longest off season is football.
Oh, without a doubt.
But all right. Me personally, I think Judge's offensive statistics warrant the MVP, but I think what's going to happen is that chicks and sports writers dig the long ball, and Cal Raleigh's going to actually get the award. So
they dig that dumper.
So
I'll go back to 1991. And I remember when the Braves won the division, one of my teammates at Beckett was a Braves fan. I go, Pendleton will win the MVP award. And they won it like the last day of the season. Barry Bonds, in today's world, his WAR so dwarfed Terry Pendleton. But Pendleton got traded to the Braves. He won the batting title. He solidified the team. And all of a sudden it's like, there's your guy. Who was the better player probably that year? Probably Barry Bonds. But who was the MVP? Pendleton, because the writers looked at it a little differently. So this is the first time in years we've actually had one of these dilemmas come up too. Just remember, the Yankees may win the division. They're tied with Toronto with 2 games to go, but Toronto has the tiebreaker. The Yankees actually have to finish ahead of Toronto, which, considering they're tied, is not impossible. I mean, anything can happen in 2 games. Seattle will win the division.
But I mean, there's a long-standing history of sports writers picking the home run leader over the more deserving candidate. I see Double D Vintage Dylan in the chat. He's probably going to roast me on this one, but even Roger Maris in 1961, the rest of Mantle's stats blew away Roger Maris, other than the home runs. So even back then, the voters were swayed by the home run total. You saw it again in 1987, Andre Dawson leading with 49. I mean, there's a lot of years where this kind of things happen. So
Warren's trying his hardest to throw Ramirez in the mix.
Well,
he's trying.
Hey, Ramirez is a heck of a player.
He's
one of 630 guys this year. That's pretty impressive. And one thing to remember about Andre Dawson in 87 is also writers were very sympathetic to him because he left Montreal and basically signed a blank contract, during the collusion days of free agent to go play for the Cubs. So the writers were very sympathetic to the fact that he made that change. And so that helped too. And in reality, the really bad MVP vote in 87 was George Bell, who also had like 48 homers over Alan Trammell, who actually had a much better year. That's the real travesty in 87.
Although even in the National League, I think there's 2 or 3 guys that had a better case than Andre Dawson. But all right, let's go ahead and get onto this last topic. And I got a little gem to share. Blast from the past of how one of the reasons I landed on this topic here. Does anybody remember this guy? I don't know. Let's see his reaction here.
You don't even have sound. Man, I've seen that video a few times.
I've never seen this video, so I have to tell you, I've never seen this video.
So that's in it's 2007, 2008 Exquisite, back in 16 years ago.
Is that the Jordan LeBron logo man 101?
It's John Stockton and Steve Nash.
That's not a bad combo either.
100%. So back, like I said, I started realistically back in the industry. To just quick summarize, I went through a bad divorce. And to get my mind off everything, instead of just going to the gym, I saw some people opening some packs at work. I'm like, I used to do that with my dad, and just fell in love with the hobby again back in like 2007. And just did my research, and found out that the hobby box, aka Chris Justice down in Wilmington, North Carolina, he Cards Infinity. He lived right close to me, got some information, and started doing group breaks on YouTube. And this was back then an Exquisite box of basketball was like $400 and some. And everyone I did group breaks with, they're like, "Why don't you do it in uniform once?" And sure enough, I hit one of my biggest cards I ever pulled online. And again, and I'll say, try to find a reaction pool. Like that's all that's out these days with breaking and everything. Earlier than this actual video. That's why it constantly comes up in clips and stuff all the time. But that was incredible, and I was a lot younger back then.
Well, I also think YouTube started about 2005, so you don't have a lot of reaction videos for a couple of years either.
Nope.
Plus, in those days, YouTube was also trying to keep videos to 10 minutes or less. Now you can watch an hour. We'll be available an hour on the Four Collectors Network. A couple of days later on the Hobby Hotline Network, you'll be able to watch the whole show. Back in the day, you had to actually split it up into 6 different
100%
segments. So there's also a lot of that too, where that's just a great card. I mean, Stockton, Nash, 2 of the best passers ever in NBA history.
And what's funny is a lot of these cards, especially the numbered stuff, right? And 101s, number out of 10 and stuff. It's always cool to see where they end up. So that card's actually in a collection in Asia. Guy named Kimmy, I think NG is his username on Instagram, and incredible collection. I talked to him, and he just has logo mans on, a lot of stuff from like 2013 and prior. Because when I talked to him a couple of years ago, he was just like, "Oh yeah, stuff's too expensive these days. I'm glad I bought all this stuff back when it was a lot cheaper, even though it was still expensive." His collection's just monstrous, and it was really cool to eventually search and find the card that I actually pulled from the box, and it's in a collection.
That is cool. I used to know there were some Venezuelan Nolan Ryan rookies I was able to keep up with back in the day.
All right. So, I mean, the other part that made me bring up this topic is, seeing your Instagram, Alex, you're working hand in hand with some of the folks that there's been some fiery conversations lately of people believing that this is like an evil in this hobby of mystery packs, breaking, just because they are disappointed in the fact that it's, the mystery packs might artificially inflate pricing. They're saying then the breaking is inflating the pricing of the unopened product to make it unaffordable to the masses.
Yep.
So, I mean, as an observer, not necessarily interested in that stuff. I mean, I question whether or not it's even the same hobby that I'm in. Like, I'm, trying to learn about old cards and sets, and it's almost like a educational endeavor. And as I collect, and then this other hobby feels like a rush for adrenaline.
So one of the things I always talk about when it comes to breaking and opening boxes and stuff, I open a lot of boxes just for myself, just for the thrill, just for the thrill to open the packs and feeling it, and possibly, again, the rush of possibly hitting something big that eventually, in my mindset, I can sell to get stuff for my collection, right?
Because I see a commonality with your Pat Tillman collecting of
correct.
What I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and again, so like down here, I have a lot of the greats. I have a Ripken rookie auto. I got a Walter Payton rookie. I got the Griffey rookie, the Tiger Woods. A couple of I venture all over, but yes, Pat Tillman is my main thing because I'm retired Army after 22 years. But I always tell people this with breaking is, it's it's good for the fact if you like doing it. That's why I've told you this before. I told you guys this before. That's what I love about this hobby, because your hobby doesn't have to be the same as mine. Doesn't have to be the same as Rich and everything. And then that's completely fine. There's a lot of things this country, period, everyone's divided on. This can be it too. Like there's not a wrong answer. Especially like if you do focus a lot on vintage and everything from the earlier years, none of this stuff is realistically pertinent to you anyways.
No,
right?
I'm just sitting on the sidelines eating the popcorn, watching.
You're just watching the pure entertainment, right? It's like Jersey Shore of card collecting, right? You see all the back and forth. The gambling aspect is 100% there. Like everyone said, it's legalized. Is it legalized gambling? Going from randoming teams, if it's a random team, to you don't know what's in these boxes. There's a lot of times that I jump around. I support a lot of individuals, trying to get some stuff, and I've hit big and I've also lost big, but I've taken that risk myself.
And I think everybody gambles in a different way. I went to a show last weekend. In fact, I'm going to go to a show when we close at 11 o'clock, a small local show, 75 tables. And originally I was going to try to go to that show and then come back. But since my wife has other plans tonight for herself, she and her best friend are going to some place where they're getting paid to go someplace where it costs $50 to walk in the door. And I go, yeah, you're going there. And so that frees me up to go to a trade night. And it's like, that works better. I'll go to the card show and then go to the trade night at one of the LCSs. And what I was getting at is that the world I go into that card show is different than everybody else's world. I'm just looking for value boxes to play with. But there's a world I don't know about. I hear the word comps. I see people in Pelican cases. I see Yu-Gi-Oh! And TCG and Pokemon and all this stuff. And it's such a different world than the one I'm in. And like, I actually now, the 700 table Dallas Card Show, I can actually do the Dallas Card Show in 2 days. I know which tables I'm going to go to, and sometimes I might hit a different table or two, but my main tables, I'll know exactly where I'm going. I can be done with the show Thursday night and Friday and not even really worry about coming back Saturday if I really don't want to, or just go Friday, Saturday and not worry about Thursday or Sunday. And that's something. My world is different than John's world, who is different than Alex's world. It's different than our listener world right now, and that's okay. And it's always been that way. That's why I pointed out earlier about the 85 tops packs or the 84 tops packs in New York when you're looking for Mattingly, or 83 when you're looking for Boggs or Gwynn or Sandberg, or Willie McGee was the first one out of the pack in 83 actually. 82 Ripken, Rigetti was hot coming out of the packs in 82 in New York. That was a different type of gambling. It's still gambling.
Oh yeah.
It's still gambling. You're just gambling different. If I'm opening a 90 score box, I want that Bo Jackson card. That's my gamble.
I remember going to the card shop in 89, 90, and they'd have the older year wax boxes, and those bigger, ones with the big rookies be like $10 a pack, and that was completely averse to me. I'm someone who in 89 thought I'm not going to pay $1 for Upper Deck when I can get tops for 45 cents. So on that front, and when we opened our packs, we were happy about every all-star player we got. And, we might have been around the table opening, these 90 scorecards together and cheering just like you hear the Breakers cheer when we hit the Bo card. But it's still not the same element to me of like how everything is gambling with odds on the box. The pricing is like pricing normal people out of opening their own packs so much.
I agree.
The whole concept of not even opening your own packs is just, it does not compute in my brain.
I'll go back to what I said about Neil Hoppenworth and Gary Walter and people like that. At the turn of the century, you would send them $100 and they would make a Kansas City Royal box for you, or a New York Yankees box or whatever, and you'd be $100 club. It's the same thing. You weren't opening your boxes, you were just getting the cards. It's a different world. It's now more expensive, and a little bit of history on the odds on the boxes. I believe that came out of California circa 1992, because in one time there was never any odds like that on boxes. And California had some, I think it was California, it could be New York, or it could be both, but it was a truth in advertising law. And they had to start posting those to avoid, so they could allow to have their cards sold in those states. And you kind of want to have your cards sold in the biggest states in the union. So that's the reason you have the odds on the boxes. It actually became like state law. I know the New York Attorney General got really into all that, because I actually talked to the office a few times when I was at Beckett, and it was something that they really wanted to help the consumer on.
Well, there's a few comments in the chat here of talking about how the breakers are pricing everyone out of packs. I mean, is that a direct, like, if breaking wasn't as prevalent, would the products cost as much as they do now?
They are. I mean, it's hard to say, because direct from tops, they're still expensive, right? If you even looking at what the wholesale prices at LCSs are getting the boxes for, are still expensive, right? Yeah, is it a little bit more? I think a lot of times now, I mean, you got to think, like, we didn't have the added extra cost that goes into it by buying these jerseys, whether they're fake or not, getting the autographs from the players and everything else, and adding this stuff to these boxes to add value, that add the price, overall for the boxes, and everything. So I think it's a little bit of both. I do. I believe, that the companies realize that these breaking companies are going to buy the cases on a mass to open on stream. So hey, let's bump it up a little bit if they're going to be making something. I mean, we've seen it at Walmart, Target, and other places. They've already bumped their prices up at the actual store prior to them, even the flippers getting the boxes and turning around and reselling them and everything.
From my limited research on Bowman Chrome, I believe there are actually Breakers Delight boxes,
Correct.
which are more to the public than the regular Chrome boxes in Bowman Chrome.
Yeah, so people have to realize, the term Breakers Delight, it had to. It's very funny because people are just like, originally people thought it was just for the breakers. They're not. It is a product that's easier. It's a Breakers Delight because they don't have to sort through all the base cards. That is why it's called Breakers Delight. So it's just refractors and hits. That's it. It's all the cream of the crop out of these newer boxes rather than having a whole bunch of base cards.
And yet base cards are fun for a lot of people.
Correct. Still have the set collectors and everything else and stuff like that. That's the reason why they're there.
It gives you a chance to open what you prefer. Oh, hey, John. It's always good to see John Keating in form as usual.
Breaker should have never
Breaker
dancing. Love it. I love some of this chat.
I'm always glad to see Mr. Keating in the chat. He certainly adds a je ne sais quoi to the whole procedure.
Some of this chat has been some pretty good comments that we missed. I think someone said eating his wife's cooking is gambling. So, it's the same as opening boxes.
Well, I mean, in life, everything's a gamble. I mean, and I say that seriously. I at one point in my life, I did 800 hours, give or take, on a suicide and crisis line. Driving to the card show, which I'm going to do coming out of here, is a crisis situation because you never know what you're going to see on the road. My wife and I were coming home from a dinner the other night, and I ran over a branch in my car, and it started making a really weird noise. Thankfully, I was able just to I pulled over, I got the branch out of the way, and we went on our merry way. That could have been much more serious. And that was just something in the middle of the road.
So I got a question for everyone in the chat, that is saying breakers are, bad for the hobby and everything else. If breaking stops today, are everyone in the chat, buying boxes at the prices they're at? Plain and simple. This is the question I ask a lot of individuals. Now, if those boxes aren't broken, their secondary market, does it crash? Does the secondary market of you finding your cards for your collection, your players, and everybody else, does that crash it? Now, it's understanding if you are vintage and you collect a lot of the older stuff, that's not going to matter right now. But all those modern people that do collect right now, which is a big group of individuals, that secondary market crashes if the boxes aren't being opened. That's something I always love to discuss.
The only thing I buy in modern packs usually, maybe Tops when it comes out, and when I go to my LCS, when I go to the LCS for trade night tonight, I'll buy some Heritage packs, or if they have a blaster box. So I'm in a pretty price-controlled area. I'm not in one of these. I mean, there are Heritage breakers, don't get me wrong, but I'm in a reasonably price-controlled point. I'm not in one of these gambling products.
Well, there's an answer to your question. If breaking stopped tomorrow, the secondary market for new wax will collapse. This is a good thing for collectors like me, Chris Harris there.
And Chris Harris, remember, is an older school collector, and so for Chris, he's probably right. He can then get a lot of his more modern cards of the players he likes.
And that's a lot of people's point, is that the breakers buying up so much of the product is what's driven up the price in the first place. So
here's the thing. You go to the shows, you see the value boxes. You really want to dig into, you really want the cards today. You may not get the super duper cards, but if you want to build a nice collection of any player, and I mean any player. I mean, I went to a show last week and the guy had quarter boxes, and there wasn't anything great, but he had Shohei in the quarter boxes. I bought one of each Shohei I saw. I bought 60 different Shohei cards for a quarter each last week. Now, I probably would have paid 50 cents or $1 each, but still at a quarter each, I'm considering that a win. Shohei's going to be a legendary player no matter what. And I'm happy with those at a quarter. But that's the point. he pulled his big hits, and now he's being very reasonable, probably too cheap, on his other stuff in his boxes. But you can buy the players of your choice. You may not get the one-on-ones, but you'll get a really good collection of players in quarter boxes, 50-cent boxes, dollar boxes, dime boxes, $3 boxes. The price point's still available. Yep. And I'm not trying to be Pollyanna, but Chris, the breaking actually helps all that too, because if people are opening it, they're doing something with the commons.
Yep.
But I mean, a lot of those prices too are driven by the manufactured scarcity they're creating of these, of ones, of fives, of tens, et cetera, et cetera. But as an outside observer, I see these as the same looking card with a slightly different border on it. What happens to these long term? Are all these of whatever cards, when these guys are retired, are people going to really care about the numbering on the cards?
Absolutely, and I'll tell you why. History tells you. The 1990s, during a really doldrums period in the hobby, think about the PMGs. PMGs weren't really popular in the 1999, 2000, 2001 era when they were all out. Now you have a PMG from that era. It can be the worst common in the world, and it's a $25 card or $10 card or $50, whatever it is. History tells you that those cards will be something. Now, I think sometimes some of these things have 45 different versions. One of the things with PMG is they're very identifiable. But history tells you.
But when you're talking PMGs and 90s inserts, isn't there a limited quantity of cards that even look like that card?
There's 100 of each in PMGs. I think it's 10. It's 10 and 90. Whether red is 10 and green is 90, or green is 10 and red is 90. There's 100 of each card.
Whereas if you take one of these modern cards in the parallel system, the base card looks the same damn picture as these limited ones, and there's not a limited supply of a card that looks pretty damn similar to that manufactured scarce version.
But they were manufactured scarcity 30 years ago. And those cards have and all these 90s inserts are really popular, not just PMG is the biggest example.
Yeah.
History is telling you. Now, history is not guaranteed to repeat. It usually does, but it's not guaranteed. And I'm not Pollyanna. I'm not thinking this is going to last forever.
But still, you're talking 90s inserts. And back then they had competition, which forced innovation. And they actually made those rare cards look different from the base card.
Yeah, but not all. I mean, not all of the parallels were different in those days either. The Pacific parallels are not different. The Pacific parallels, which are very tough, just have a little premier date in the corner. They're not as popular as the PMGs, but they are. But there's Pacific inserts. Good luck finding some of the numbered Pacific inserts from that period. Like they were. I think they are the only hockey license for a couple of years. There are some really tough hockey cards that collectors would go gaga over. And that's what I'm saying. History tells you that there's a good, I'm not saying it's a guarantee. History tells you there's a good chance.
I think that's where, these card companies, that's why they all of a sudden started with all these case hits, right? Because the scarcity is supposed to be of these cards. Especially, and I'm bringing it up right now with Panini with football, with Panini with basketball losing these licenses back to tops. All these cards right now in these last seasons that are case hits, that are scarcer and everything. In the long run, should they not be like 90s inserts, 20 years, 30 years from now? Because they should be scarcer.
Well, I won't be alive 30 years from now, so
we're all living for a long time, Rich. You'll be around.
But I'm 65. If I'm still in the hobby at 95, I'm pretty darn good.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting of what's going to happen. Because, I know this has been an old man argument forever of the kids are only in it for money. I mean, I've watched some of the YouTube documentaries you can see from the 1990 era. 89, 90 of the old man saying all the kids care about is the rookie cards and the values and all that, because, you know, that's a natural thing for kids. They don't have a source of income. They're getting something valuable.
Right. And yeah, I think their maturity is, I mean, there's a lot of still immature individuals, including myself, that are older or whatever, but, you know, they haven't been through a lot of stuff yet. They haven't seen the ups and downs. They haven't, you know, been through a life yet. So of course, yeah, right away, they're like, oh, I can get some money for this and I can turn this into the next PlayStation game. I can turn it into this and everything. Of course, that's going to draw them in a little bit more.
Just a note to Mr. Keating, I think Score in the late 80s, early 90s were the most attractive of the card sets in baseball. Look at an 88 or 89 or 90 Score. They are so much more attractive than like any of the top sets.
I like 90 Score. They did really well with the border on those.
And they were all different colors. There's like blue, and there's, you know, they did different colors too, depending what series it was. You know, rookie cards are different colored borders than like the first series. You know, the all the superstars. Yeah, I think Score, and they had good photography. Les Woodcock, who had been an SI editor, wrote the backs and edited the backs of the cards for text. You could learn a lot from reading the cards. It was a very different world back then.
Oh, yeah. They started elevating the backs of the cards before we had Upper Deck with 88 Score looking nicer on the back. I mean, you can even point to Sports Flicks elevating how the backs of the cards looked better.
Yes, the backs, yes. The fronts, no.
Yeah, obviously they were trying something different, but yeah, the 87 Sportflex, you look at those and they had the full color photo of the guy along with the stats, all nice looking quality paper on the backs of those. So,
okay, well, we're coming up to the top of the hour, so, and I do have places to go to. So,
all right. Well, thank you for indulging me, Alex. I know, you know. We come from different angles, and I don't understand your world, but I'm a little more open to at least hearing about it than what I've seen in the community this week. So,
yeah,
well,
it's
and I exist in both worlds. So even though I'm old, I understand a lot of Alex's world. And, you know, and as I said, that's why I like going to the trade nights at the stores, because it keeps me informed. At the last time I went to a trade, it's actually a trade afternoon from 3 to 6. The last time I went, I watched the man with his daughter open a $250 Pokemon box. They didn't get anything great, but they had a lot of fun opening it.
Yep.
And that's fine. And they were playing with their levels too.
One of the things
and in honor of Chris Harris, keep on rocking in the free world.
Yeah, one of the things I've been doing a lot of these trade nights and stuff with individuals, we do, you know, rip battles and everything else like that, is I'm helping educate a lot of the younger generation by saying, okay, I want you to open your packs and find the player that weighs the less. It's making them flip over the card, right, and seeing that there's stats on the back and everything. That's even though, you know, I do a lot in the new modern generation stuff, I'm here to help educate and everything with this hobby. So I love it.
And thank you, chat, for the great contributions. We appreciate you.
Yep, thanks you, the chat. Yes. Next week, Hobby Hotline. I think, Alex, you're back, so it should be another good show.
Back to back.
Tomorrow night, 4 Collectors Live, as per usual, 9 Eastern. So, everybody, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Catch you later.